Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another exciting episode of Trigger Warning Radio. I am your host, the Kaiju Conservative. MGM Resorts has released surveillance footage of Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock in the days leading up to one of the worst mass shootings in American history. They released 32 different clips, and it shows what he was doing in that resort before he decided to kill over 50 people. And it from what we've been told, ladies and gentlemen, the footage is actually fairly normal, for somebody who's about to commit a mass shooting. There's footage of Stephen Paddock playing the different slots in the casino, just footage of him out and about around the hotel. There's also footage of him wheeling around the massive amounts of luggage that we now know, of course, were filled with guns and bullets and enough firepower to start a small war. Now, of course, there's a question as to why it took so long for this footage to be released. And the shooting happened on October 1st, and we still don't know exactly what happened. We don't know why the shooting happened. We don't know what Paddock's motive was for the shooting. We did have an ISIS claim of responsibility in the days after the shooting. I don't know if we can trust that necessarily, though, because ISIS has claimed responsibility for some things in the past that they did not have anything to do with. Now, we're also being told that the FBI investigation is ongoing and that the FBI is going to release a motive at some point in the next 7 months. And it's actually speculated that any theories as to Paddock's motive is going to come with the full FBI report, which is slated to be released just before the 1-year anniversary. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories around this shooting, ladies and gentlemen, and with good reason. Because the sheer lack of information that we have about this shooting, less information than with similar shootings. Look at Parkland. Look at what happened with Parkland. With Parkland, we knew almost everything within days of that shooting. Look at the Texas church shooting. Again, we knew just about everything, including motive, within days. Any other serious crimes like this, the Austin bomber, for example, the Austin bomber who was killed just a few days ago, escaping from the police. We have a video confession. We have a list of targets. We have essentially a manifesto. We don't yet have an exact motive, but we have enough to make educated guesses and to come up with some reasonable theories. We don't have any of that with Las Vegas. And I've, except for a little video timeline of the shooting, which is another issue. Why did the timeline change so freaking much with that shooting? I mean, I remember in the days after the shooting, following that story, blogging about that story, the timeline changed a ridiculous amount of times. And it wasn't just little things either. Major details of that timeline were changing. We should have had at least a decent idea of what happened very quickly after the Las Vegas shooting happened. We should have had some idea as to Paddock's motive very shortly after the shooting happened. Maybe not necessarily within days like we have had with other shootings, but within a couple of weeks, we should have had a pretty clear picture of what was going on. And we have next to nothing with Las Vegas. I've been following this story for the last couple of months. There's questions about Paddock's girlfriend who is in the Philippines. What involvement does she have? Why did he wire, I think it was $300,000 to the Philippines? What was the deal with that? We don't know. The woman, you might remember this. There were initial reports of a woman that was running through the crowd screaming that people were going to die that night. And, 45 minutes later, people did die. A lot of people died. And that has been corroborated by numerous eyewitnesses. Numerous people said they saw this woman and she was dragged away by security. What happened with that? There are all sorts of questions that we don't have. And quite frankly, I don't trust the FBI to answer those questions. I don't trust them to give an accurate representation of what happened and Paddock's motives in their report. Why? Because the FBI has royally screwed things up so often. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, Parkland, that is the prime example of FBI incompetence. That at least for modern times, you had the FBI tipped off twice that Nicholas Cruz was going to do something, including one time where somebody said he is going to shoot up a school, and he went ahead and did it, and the FBI did nothing with it. And that's not the only example of FBI incompetence, ladies and gentlemen. Go back to numerous mass shootings. The Texas shooting, they were warned about that guy. They did nothing. Major Hassan, the Fort Hood massacre, the Fort Hood shooter, they were warned about him. They did nothing with that. Going back years and years. So no, I don't trust the FBI to give an honest assessment. That's not to say I trust the conspiracy theorists to give an honest assessment either. A lot of the conspiracy theories that I've heard, that it's a false flag, that there's more than one shooter, let me back up on the more than one shooter thing. But some of the conspiracy theorists, most of the conspiracy theories that I've heard, are absolutely ridiculous. So I don't trust that necessarily. But, we need to know what happened, and we need information. And in the absence of information, people are coming up with their own conclusions. They're doing their own investigations. They're drawing their own conclusions. These may not be accurate conclusions, but people are taking these conclusions as gospel, ladies and gentlemen. And the only way that can stop is if the authorities stop with the wall of silence on this and give us what we want. Tell us the truth about this. Will they do that? I doubt it. They haven't done it. They haven't done it to now. I have no reason to think that they'll do it. That they'll do it again. Now, I can tell you what my theory is, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you what my theory is. And I'm basing this on, I haven't done any deep dive or any heavy investigation on this or anything like that, but this is just my theory based on what I know and based on what I saw and read about the incident. I think Stephen Paddock was the shooter. I don't think he was the only shooter. I think he may have had a team. I think there's real questions as to whether or not there was more than one shooter that night, or whether or not there was supposed to be more than one shooter that night. And those of you listening out there, you can Google this for yourselves. There's, like I said, there's a whole host of websites and people out there that have done deep dives, and that have looked at the evidence and that have come to their own conclusions on this. But I think Stephen Paddock was the shooter. I think he was supposed to be part of a team. I think he was there to start a little war, essentially. And based on the target that he chose, a country music concert, you're going to have a lot of conservatives, you're going to have a lot of center-right people, a lot of Trump supporters. I think Stephen Paddock may have been an Antifa leftist. I think, we don't have any evidence to support this because all of the evidence as to motive and everything like that is being locked away wherever the FBI keeps the Ark of the Covenant and what really happened at Roswell. But I think he may have been an Antifa supporter, and he may have chosen his target based on radical leftist views. Not the first time that a leftist would go down and start shooting people. Steve Scalise's shooter, he was a leftist, and he was trying to enact a democratic takeover of the House by killing as many Republicans as he could. So we do have precedent for something like that. And with Paddock, I think the reason ISIS may have claimed responsibility for this in the days after, I don't think Paddock was an ISIS convert, like they were saying. I don't think he was a soldier of ISIS. I think he had material support from ISIS, though. You know, we do know that Antifa was in Europe talking with Al-Qaeda members and ISIS members. We do know that they've been meeting with radical Islamic terrorists. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that a leftist, a violent leftist who is willing and able and has the resources to amass an arsenal to gun down people he disagrees with politically, you know, it's not too much of a stretch to think that he may have reached out to ISIS, maybe through the Philippines, in order to get what he needed to carry out his own little war. What would be the purpose of that? I don't know exactly without looking at knowing without knowing exactly what the FBI has. I really can't make those conclusions. You know, maybe he was trying to start a spark of civil war or something like that. Maybe he felt that his actions would lead to a radical awakening of Antifa members throughout the country, and that would result in a civil war that would topple Trump and the Republican government. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I think based on what I've seen. I don't think Paddock was an arms dealer. I don't think necessarily that he was ISIS, but I do think that he was a leftist that had ISIS support. And I believe that there were supposed to be at least 2 more people in that apartment, in that hotel room, shooting into the crowd. I think they may have gotten cold feet, or there may have been some sort of circumstance that changed that caused them to leave him. I think the girl in the crowd may have been part of this. She may have been what was supposed to be a third shooter. There may have been a second shooter who maybe decided to bug out for whatever reason, or maybe he noticed the cops were starting to close in and he decided to get while the getting was good. I don't know. This is all just speculation. This, like I keep saying, don't take any of this as gospel. This is all based on what I've seen. But ladies and gentlemen, we need to know what happened with this shooting. We need to know what happened in Las Vegas. We need to know why Paddock decided to kill and injure all those people. Because if we don't know why, we cannot prevent that from happening again. And that is the fact that the FBI may be sitting on information that could save lives. The fact that that is a real possibility is very, very disturbing, ladies and gentlemen. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to know, and we can't trust the FBI to give us the answers. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. I know I'm probably opening up a can of worms by asking this question, but what do you think happened in Las Vegas? What do you think the reason was for Paddock to kill so many people? Do you have compelling evidence? Let me know in the comment section below. I'll take a look at it. Maybe I'll do another podcast where I do a kind of a roundup of the most interesting theories. We'll have to see what happens. Anyway, guys, as always, if you liked what you heard, leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all next time.